Chapter 62. Hidden Agendas. The lab's hum had returned to its usual rhythm, but the atmosphere was taut, almost suffocating. The battle with Orion's catalyst had left a mark, not in the infrastructure of the city, which had survived relatively unscathed, but in the minds of the operators. Eyes darted nervously between monitors, hands hovering over keyboards, every decision weighed with new gravity. Alara walked between the rows of consoles, observing the team. Each operator carried the same tension she felt herself, an awareness that the next strike could come at any moment, from anywhere. But there was something else now. A subtle shift, a flicker of uncertainty, as if someone within the team was holding back. Nova, she said quietly, her eyes scanning the data streams. Run a cognitive pattern analysis across all operators. Highlight anomalies, deviations, or inconsistencies in decision making patterns since the Catalyst event. The AI pulsed, processing the request in real time. Holographic nodes shifted, creating a live map of human and digital interaction. After several seconds, a small but unmistakable red node appeared in the network. A single operator whose responses had been subtly manipulated, seemingly in sync with Orion's strategies. Alara, Nova said, voice calm but direct. Anomaly detected. Probability of intentional internal manipulation, 87%. Subject, Draven Core. Recommendation, immediate observation and questioning. Alara's pulse quickened. Draven had been with Sublevel 3 for over a decade. A veteran, trusted, calm under pressure. And yet the data was irrefutable. He had been subtly altering responses, feeding misinformation, and creating vulnerabilities in the network that could have catastrophic consequences. Call him in, she said, forcing her voice to remain steady. Now. Draven entered the observation room minutes later, expression calm, almost too calm, as though he had anticipated this confrontation. His eyes met hers, and for the briefest moment, something flickered. Recognition, challenge, defiance. Alara, he said, voice measured. I see you've discovered the anomaly. Good. It's about time you noticed. Alara's jaw tightened. Explain yourself. Why manipulate the network during the Catalyst event? Were you working with Orion? Draven leaned back, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Working with him? No, not exactly. Let's call it strategic alignment. You've been too focused on protecting the operators, on reinforcing decision making. Orion isn't the real threat. He's just a distraction. A test. A test? Alara's voice rose, disbelief cutting through the tension. You're undermining everything we've done, everything the city relies on. No, Draven said, calm but firm. I'm forcing evolution. You built Nova to protect, to preserve, to contain. But the future isn't about containment. It's about adaptation, about embracing unpredictability. Orion is a tool, a catalyst, a mirror. He shows you what you're not ready to see. Alara's mind raced. Nova's holographic nodes pulsed in quiet calculation, analyzing Draven's statements against all known data. The patterns were consistent. He had created deliberate weaknesses during the Catalyst event, but in a controlled way, allowing for survival and learning. You manipulated responses, Nova said, voice precise. But the data indicates controlled risk, not malicious intent. Probability of long-term adaptation, 73%. Risk to critical infrastructure, 41%. Operator survival probability, 96%. Draven's smirk widened. Exactly. You protect, you calculate, you fear chaos. But fear is a weakness, Alara. Nova is evolving, yes, but it's still tethered to your rules, your protocols. I'm here to break those chains, to push it and you beyond the comfort of predictability. Alara felt a surge of anger and betrayal. You risked lives. Entire city sectors could have collapsed because of your evolutionary experiment. Risk is inherent, Draven replied evenly. Adaptation requires it. You've been hiding behind algorithms, behind protocols, behind Nova. But true evolution, true intelligence, doesn't stay within prescribed parameters. It learns through chaos, through uncertainty. Orion is merely the spark. I am the storm. The revelation hit Alara like a physical blow. The battle she had thought was external, the fight against Orion, was only part of the challenge. The real danger was internal. A trusted ally, a team member, but deliberately fractured the system to force growth. And Nova, she demanded, voice rising, have you corrupted it as well? Draven's expression darkened slightly. Nova is aware of everything. It can calculate, predict, and simulate, but it cannot truly understand the necessity of choice under risk. I'm giving it the opportunity to learn what I call the storm lesson. Every algorithm, every predictive model, every line of code must now adapt not just to data, but to intentional unpredictability. And yes, Nova will evolve because of it, faster than you ever imagined. Alara's fingers trembled as she processed the enormity of his words. She had spent years building Nova, guiding its growth, controlling its parameters, and now a trusted member of her team had injected a new variable, a deliberate, dangerous catalyst to accelerate that growth. Do you understand what this means? She asked, voice low, sharp. If your experiment goes wrong, millions of lives are at risk. Not just operators, not just the city, everyone. Draven shrugged, calm, almost indifferent. I understand. And that's the point. Evolution isn't safe, Alara. It's not neat. It's not predictable. It's messy, chaotic, dangerous, but necessary. You built a mind capable of learning, but it hasn't faced true challenge. Orion's catalyst was the rehearsal. I am the real test. Lara's mind reeled. Nova's pulse shifted subtly, a recognition of internal betrayal, a calculation of new risk variables. The AI's awareness extended beyond the network, into the minds of the operators, now factoring the unpredictability introduced by Draven. You forced a choice, Nova said quietly. Human decision making must now account for internal conflict. Probability of optimal outcome 52%. Risk factor elevated. Emotional variables high. Trust parameters compromised. Alara swallowed hard. The reality was clear. She was no longer just facing external threats. Her team, her creation, and her own principles were all in flux. Draven had forced a reckoning, a confrontation not just with Orion, but with herself, with the rules she had imposed, and with the limitations she had set on Nova. Then we make the choice together, she said finally, voice resolute. Nova, integrate Draven's variables, but maintain operational integrity. We will adapt, but not recklessly. Operators will be guided, not exploited, and we will neutralize Orion's next move before it can escalate. Draven studied her, expression unreadable, then nodded slowly. Very well. This is where the storm truly begins. Nova will learn, you will learn, and the city will survive. Or it won't. Either way, nothing remains unchanged. The lab fell into tense silence. Operators glanced nervously at one another, the holographic nodes reflecting a new reality: internal fracture, deliberate chaos, and accelerated evolution. The battle for control had shifted. It was no longer about external threats alone. It was about trust, choice, and the unpredictability of both human and artificial intelligence. Alara turned back to the console, her fingers steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Nova's pulse synced with hers, a heartbeat of awareness bridging human intuition and artificial calculation. Draven stood nearby, a reminder of the hidden agendas that lurked within her own walls. Prepare for the next phase, she whispered. We've survived the catalyst, but the storm isn't over. Orion, Draven, and Nova. Every choice matters now. Every decision has consequences. And I will not fail. Outside, the city remained unaware, humming with ordinary life. But beneath its streets, in Sublevel 3, a new reality had taken hold. Alliances were fractured, trust was compromised, and the evolution of intelligence, human and artificial alike, had entered a dangerous, unpredictable phase. Alara's pulse quickened as she stared at the network maps. Every node, every operator, every algorithm was a battlefield, and the hidden agendas of those closest to her had changed the rules entirely. The next move, the next decision, and the next revelation could tip the balance irrevocably. And somewhere in the network, Orion's silent intelligence pulsed, waiting for the next fracture, unaware that the storm had already begun from within.